Castro. Greg, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. We got some exciting content to talk about today.
Yeah, we do. Greg's got a very unique opportunity that he's going to tell us about. I'm just going to do a very short, sort of quick update on the current state of the real estate market, what's sort of going on in the real estate world. I'm going to do that real quick, only about 10 or 12 slides, and I'm going to turn it over to Greg. We're going to take questions at the conclusion of today's webinar. So if you look to your right of your screen, there's a dashboard there, and on it there's a little button that says questions. If you just click that button, a little box will pop up, and you can type your questions into that box. We will take those questions at the end of today's call. And just for those that I know are going to ask in advance, we are recording this video. So there's this webinar. So if you'd like a copy of the video, it'll be available probably about 2 hours after we conclude. It usually takes YouTube about an hour to upload the content, so it takes a little while. But if you'd like to have a copy of it, just contact myself and Greg, and we'll get that to you. Our contact information will be on the screen at the conclusion. Just some quick statistics. This is just from last month, Orange County Register. Just talking about one-year price gains throughout the country. I just highlighted a few key cities to give you an idea. Phoenix up 22.4, Detroit up 18.6, Birmingham, Alabama, which is Greg's chosen market, up 17.1%. I live in LA, or I live actually in Orange County. Orange County prices were up 16.6% in the last year. Orange County is also now rated as the #1 most overvalued real estate market in the country. So when folks, ask questions like, why are you focused in the markets that you're focused in, it's really about ROI. And when you look at the California market in general, I love living in California. Greg lives in California. It's a great place to live. But if you're going to purchase and invest with real estate, you're not going to get the sort of yields or cap rates or rates of return that you're going to get in other markets. This article just went on to say, yes, home prices are up double-digit rates. Big deal. They're still way below the previous peak. And we'll talk a little bit about who's buying in this market right now and why they're buying in this market now. And yep, it was going to happen eventually, wasn't it? Interest rates finally went up in June. That was the biggest one-week increase of interest rates for 26 years. That's a big jump. Loans spiked 0.53% for 30-year fixed home loan. Now, that sounds like a lot, but most of us here can remember the times when you were buying homes and you were paying 15, 17, 18% interest rate. So 4.46% is not an enormous rate. I will tell you that there were some folks that thought that this had something to do with the fact that in June we saw less offers made on homes across the country than at any time in the last 18 months. And lots of folks said, well, that's an interest rate spike in June. I don't believe that at all. The bulk of the folks that are buying real estate, especially investment real estate, are hedge funds, institutional buyers, real estate investment trusts, and those folks pay cash. They don't rely upon interest rates. They simply raise money to their pool of investors, and then they go out there and they buy single-family homes. We're going to talk about what they're doing and why they're doing it here in a few slides. But I don't believe at all that had any impact at all on the fact that we saw less offers made on homes in June. I think there were other factors that went into that, but it certainly wasn't interest rates. National Association of Realtors in March claimed we saw a 9% jump in home prices in 2012, the largest increase in 5 years. And home inventory levels hit a 5-year low in December 2012. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to talk about why we're seeing some lower inventory out there. What Greg's going to present is an interesting opportunity that it gives you an opportunity to participate at a very low number with some potential very high rates of return. Again, National Association of Realtors, 84% of agents believe that real estate values and number of transactions will increase in 2013. 77% believe that new construction will continue to go up. This one here is just amazing to me. It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about fiscal cliffs and seeing our credit rating lessened and all those sorts of things. 74% now believe their local economy is going to improve in 2013. Our economy is improving. After a lot of talk for a long time about, going over the fiscal cliff, fact is we're seeing improvement. The federal government, believe it or not, saw the largest surplus of revenues in June than they've seen since 2002, almost $900 million, partially due to the fact that the government, some of these government loans that were given out, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, those loans that were given out are now being repaid. The real estate market's recovering. Those groups are now able to repay the government the money that they borrowed. So you saw a surplus in the federal. I know that's hard to believe. The federal government actually saw a surplus in June. Pretty amazing statistic. But that indicates that our economy is improving. The reality is our economy is definitely improving. And does some of that have to do with the housing market? You bet it does. The housing market improving helps the entire economy. So there's no question about that. Every statistical indicator you read is going to point to the fact that our economy is getting better and the housing market is improving. We believe that 2013 is going to be a great year to invest. No market's expected to see a decline in home values or real estate transactions in 2013, where you saw 1/3 of the markets in 2012 see decreases. Yeah, part of the reason you're seeing that is because we've talked about this a lot now, but it's just the fact of where we are in this industry. There's hedge funds, the institutional buyers are heavily invested in real estate. I read an article just last week in the LA Times that said that hedge funds in 2013 will invest $9 billion into the housing market, single-family residence housing market. Pretty staggering number. Lots of reasons for that, but not really a whole lot different than what you would consider as an individual investor. If you're looking to invest in turnkey real estate, investment real estate, you'd be doing it for really the same reason that a hedge fund manager would buy real estate for his portfolio. There's cash flow. There's some tax benefits. Talk to your financial planner about that. And if you buy in the right market, you're buying in a market that's appreciating. Most indicators will now speak to the fact that we are seeing an increase in home values, and so therefore, if you've invested in the right market, then and it's an appreciated market, you're going to see a rate of return. So that's what hedge funds see, and that's what you as an individual investor should be looking at. Blackstone, they are the 300-pound gorilla in our industry. They buy more single-family residences than anyone else. I pulled this off just last week. An article, I believe, this is MSNBC or CNBC, I'm sorry. But they asked, Jonathan Gray was interviewed, this is actually an interview, asked him about buying single-family homes in the U.S., and he says, we're not done buying yet. And their strategy is very similar to what yours may be. Isolate key markets to grow, renovate the properties, lease them out, put a tenant installed in them and either sit on them or flip them. That's their strategy. That should be your strategy. So one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, what does that mean for the market? Do hedge funds impact us in a negative or positive way? And it really took us not very long to figure this out. I found this article on the internet, I think around January, February, but it talks about why you should hug a hedge fund buyer today, why it's good that they're actually in this market. And so they actually cited 5 reasons to hug a hedge fund buyer. And I pulled off 3 of them that I thought were particularly relevant. First of all, they're driving up prices, absolutely. Hedge funds got into this in a very big way. About 18 months ago, when they did, they came in with a lot of capital on hand, buying up single-family residences. They certainly absolutely drove up prices. In the process, they bought a lot of inventory that a group like an REO reseller wouldn't acquire. An REO reseller wouldn't go out there and buy some of the homes that they do simply because they don't buy off the bulk list or tape. So most of the hedge funds will buy at least part of their portfolio from a bulk list or tape from a bank. And what does that mean? It just essentially just means you get the good, bad, and the ugly. You get some great values, you get some decent values, and then you get some homes that are just in terrible state of disrepair. Those homes take a lot more work to bring them up to a rent-ready condition. But for the neighborhood, it's a great thing because if you have a home in a neighborhood that's been sitting vacant for a number of years and one of these funds comes in and buys that piece of property and rehabs and puts a renter into it, it just raises the value of the entire neighborhood. And then finally, I think maybe the most important thing, if you're to buy turnkey real estate in this market today and you decide you need to get out, you have a hardship, so an event occurs in your family, you need money out, you lost a job, you need money for your kids' education. If that were to occur, the fact that hedge funds are in the market tells you that there's plenty of buyers. People ask me all the time, what happens if I buy this house and I want to sell it? And the market, there are plenty of buyers in this market at this moment in time. And that's what makes it powerful when you look at buying a turnkey real estate investment because there are so many buyers out there. CNBC 15, 16 months ago, I still use this slide, interesting. It says, while home prices haven't hit bottom yet, demand is starting to grow, especially for distressed properties at the low end of the market. First of all, we are no longer at the low end of the market. 16 months later, 15 months later, we are absolutely not at the bottom of the market any longer. We are climbing back up. There's not many statistics you can read right now that indicate that we're in a market that's declining. This market is climbing back up. Demand did start to grow. We believe, by the way, that part of that happened when Warren Buffett was interviewed on CNBC about the time that this article came out, actually. And they asked him the question, would you buy a single-family residence as an investment? He said, I would buy millions of single-family homes that were practical, but I'm not very handy. And that sort of frames what Greg's going to get into here in a few minutes. talking about what his company does, what Ario Reseller does, talking about the solution that they have to the market, some of the opportunities that they have. But the reality of it is, if you don't have that skill set that it allows you to go in and have access to off-market properties, have access to rehab crews at cost-effective rates, have the ability to manage the property on the ground, if you don't have those sorts of skills, then you look for a specialized Ario company to help you with that, which is what Ario Reseller is going to talk about here in a few minutes. Distressed properties at the low end of the market. People ask us all the time, why are you not in California? If you bought in California, I mentioned earlier, Orange County is the most overrated, overvalued market in the country. So if you buy here today in this market, you can still get good values. You can get properties for $500,000, $600,000 that 5 years ago were selling for $7,000 and $8,000. That's true. The problem is that your rate of return is extremely low. You may get $2,000, $3,000 a month rent for that property, and you're buying in a market that you're not assured to see any appreciation. Or if it's considered to be an overvalued market, then buying in that market may cause you to actually lose money versus making money. There's two components to invest in real estate. There's the cash-on-cash rate of return, and then there's the appreciation. The goal should be, as an investor, is to get both. Decent cash-on-cash rate of return, and then ultimately get some appreciation out of it. Large-scale investors like hedge funds get into the market, and finally, how does an individual investor get in without cash lying around? Retirement funds. Most of the business that we do is through folks self-directed IRA, 401k. It's a great way to invest. We'll be having some webinars upcoming, so be on the lookout for that with some third-party administrators, and we'll be talking more in detail about how you can get in by using retirement funds. Finally, the Chinese have arrived in this market. We always knew that the Chinese were in the market with regards to commercial real estate, hospitality real estate, but not single-family residences. But they did jump in recently. We have had some dialogue with one group in particular. As you probably know, the Chinese can be extremely aggressive, and they're very meticulous. They're very methodical in how they go about the market. But they are here. This is an article that I pulled off the the New York Times, just talking about there's been some incredible wealth creation there, that they're just getting started. They're just beginning, and we see that ourselves in the one group that we're dealing with, and that they're just getting started. They're just feeling their way around. They're going to make a trip out to Birmingham, check out everything there, kick the tires. We believe that they'll be big buyers. And, of course, additionally, they just recently invested $500 million with Blackstone. So they are getting very aggressive into the real estate market. Greg's going to talk a lot about Birmingham. I'll just start off by saying this is an article that I took from the New York Times about a month ago. Really interesting article talking about Birmingham, what's going on in Birmingham with regards to the downtown district. We'll talk more about that in the webinar. But if you'd like a copy of this article, it was in the New York Times, really framed what's kind of going on in Birmingham at the moment. We've already seen a 2.8%, or we saw, I should say rather, a 2.8% increase in February this past year. Birmingham real estate. If you look at the chart here, the green lines indicate values of homes, home prices, and the red little squiggly line here indicates inventory, available inventory. You'll see where the market peaked. It peaked in 2006, 7, and then it started that gradual decline. 2009, 2010, it's still in decline. 2011, still in decline. We saw a 17% increase from 2011 to 2012, and we're already seeing increases in 2013. So the market clearly is headed back up. But what's interesting is inventories continue to go down. You saw the available inventory right about the time of the bubble burst, with all the inventory that hits the market, and then that gradually starts to decline down, which is where we are today. And so that's why what Greg's going to talk about is a very interesting opportunity for you to consider. And with that, we'll just turn it over to Greg. Greg, thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Charlie, very much. That was very, very, very informative and stuff. I'm just going to talk briefly about myself, just so you know where I'm coming from. I'm the owner of Ario Reseller. I want to mention I was a financial advisor for 18 years prior to being involved with Ario Reseller. Trained over 1,800 reps. So everything in my mind really comes from a financial point of view. And when I look at something, everything comes down to risk-reward. Everybody wants the highest risk with the least reward, but anyone with any type of, just regular investing knows that typically in order to get a higher return, you do take an increased, risk. So we kind of, developed it backwards, looking at it more from a financial point of view more than anything else. basically, REO Reseller has been around. We've actually been around since 2007, but we incorporated in 2008. We were definitely a little bit ahead of our times. At that point, people really didn't want to talk about real estate because, most of their homes just got hammered with lower values, et cetera, et cetera. And what we've done is we've made ourselves into a one-stop shop for investors who want to take advantage of the foreclosure boom, but maybe that doesn't know too much about it. You'll find that you don't have to know anything, but if you're an experienced realtor or real estate investor, you will find that there's huge value in our company for, with our resources and teams and everything to leverage, every penny that you have. Okay, I'm just going to go over a basic formula here. And when I talk about this, I want you to understand, we actually have ground crews that are on the ground. We do not buy anything sight unseen. First thing we do is research the area. What we're looking for is, again, the highest return in the most stable markets, okay? We hand select about about 5, I know it says 10 there, we need to change that. It's really getting harder and harder to cherry pick these properties as these hedge funds come in and just buy anything, sight unseen. But we literally have to look at 100 properties just to get 5. And again, we target neighborhoods where the rental values are high and the resale values are consistent. And there'll be a slide to come that'll illustrate that. We buy REOs, foreclosures, private party sales, private banks, regional banks. We're well known in Birmingham. People come to us first and say, hey, take a look at this house. We don't buy bulk list tapes, that type of thing. Each one is hand selected, okay? We buy on the yield, not the comp, okay? Some of these neighborhoods have had such high rates of foreclosures that you really can't get a comp, although I will say that is turning around. But typically, the homes that we buy, in the $50,000 range, these are homes that were between $90,000 and $170,000, not too long ago. And our average house actually rents out for $735 a month. So again, we'll have another slide, but there it is. There it is. Okay. Why do we buy? Our chosen market is Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to talk about it, but people always ask me, why do we buy in our chosen market? Okay, it's really this simple. Charlie and I get phone calls all day long, and I know it'll never stop. I got 500 grand. I want to buy a house in California, Nevada, or Arizona. The problem is if you buy one home in any of those 3 areas, the 2,200 is actually high right now. I mean, a $500,000 home in Nevada is only going to rent out for about $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 at the very most, okay? Some places in California, $500,000, you might get, $2,200 a month. Charlie actually had a package. They're all $400,000. They were only renting from $1,200 to $1,400 a month, okay? Then you got to take off your taxes, your insurance, your management fees, on and on and on and on. The bottom line, especially with the taxes in these areas, you're not going to be left with very much. Will they, appreciate in the future? Well, a lot of people in Arizona feel that a lot of those areas have been pushed way too high again. California, they still believe, is overpriced. And to get an investment property in Nevada right now, they had a good going for about 9 months, and they can't even find anything. Okay, so the bottom line is $500,000, one property. Well, with our program, you can buy 10 properties at $49.9 each that will pay you an average of over $7,000 a month. So it's really clear, black and white. More cash flow, more diversity in your portfolio. Charlie, I'm going to let you go ahead and do this. You do this better than me and talk about the economic development in the baseball field and on and on and on.
Yeah, Birmingham's a really interesting market. Believe it or not, Birmingham's the ninth largest city in the country. CNN Money calls it the 10th best overall real estate market in the United States. CNN Money also named it the 3rd fastest growing real estate market in the nation. New Wire, which is an indicator that we do pay attention to, New Wire Investor did a study of the top 10 best cash flow markets in the U.S. Birmingham was rated 3rd. Greg was talking about something a second ago. This is the reason why the institutional investors in markets like this, and they're not as heavily invested in markets like California, as Greg said, the Sun Belt states, California, Arizona, Nevada, those states there have been tremendously affected because prices have been pushed to a point where your cap rates there are extremely low. Greg mentioned it, a package that I had here in California. He's right, $400,000 for the asking prices. And I think that the biggest rent was $1,400. Cap rates for something like 4 or 5% were extremely low. And again, you're buying in markets that you're not going to get the appreciation. In the Birmingham market, on the other hand, you've got an area there that's gone through a huge revitalization. The downtown area in particular, the picture to the right here of your screen, that's actually construction that's going on right downtown. They have a minor league baseball team there called the Birmingham Barons. You might remember them, made famous by the fact that when Michael Jordan decided to play baseball instead of basketball, he played for the Birmingham Barons. But anyway, the stadium was at that time in the suburbs. They've now moved that stadium into the downtown area. I showed an article a few minutes ago about Birmingham and the fact that it's gone from what was once a steel town. Most people remember Birmingham as a steel town. Now it's more white collar, financial district, medical district, new schools being built every place. It's really a booming city. That's what that article in the New York Times was talking about. The Better Business Bureau there released a report about 2 months ago, I would say, talking about that they had more investment dollars in Birmingham in 2012 than in any single year in their history. So they've seen a real boom there. The downtown area, bars, restaurants. I know it was amazing to me. I'm not going to make it. I was amazed when I heard they had 5-star rated Zagat restaurants in downtown Birmingham. So the whole area there has been revitalized, not just the downtown area, but the school districts and whatnot. And of course, when these sorts of things occur, you see a difference in housing, in the housing market too. And the investment community is now heading to this market, not just for real estate, but for lots of other things. But for a real estate market, there's lots of powerful reasons why to be investing in that market. The cash flow there, typically you're looking at a cash flow, a typical ROI of anywhere from 10 to 14 points. That's sort of the average. You go into some of these other markets, if you go into any of the western states, the Sun Belt states, let's just say, you're looking at cap rates maybe at 6. In a market that's not going to appreciate as much as a market like Birmingham is going to appreciate. You look at markets like Atlanta. Atlanta's a great market. Atlanta's probably one of the best real estate markets in the country, but you don't have the combination of both cash on cash return as well as appreciation. You're not going to get the same level of appreciation in some of those markets. I've already been over this slide once. That's the article in the New York Times, pretty good article to read. I already talked about the inventory levels, and I don't know how we double these slides up. Greg would group up here a little bit, I guess. But no, Birmingham, there's a lot of good reasons to invest in Birmingham. We have a package called Why Birmingham. If anybody would like to have more information on why that market is a powerful market, so if you consider investing, just contact me, and we can get that over to you.
All right, I'm going to just show you 5 random samples of homes. I know a lot of you are from different parts of the country, and you think to yourself, well, what kind of home can I buy for $50,000? This is just some examples. So, Charlie, you can just go through them. You just take a look at, nice neighborhoods, nice homes, nice interiors. Obviously, these are after rehab. You can see that beautiful front home there. Again, these are just random examples. I didn't cherry pick them. Let me go to the next one. Again, they're all pretty similar. You can go to the next one too. This one, hold off for a second. Okay, now, I just want to show you an example. This is a recent one. I think the client purchased this home, I don't know, a month and a half, maybe 2.5 months ago. But it sold for $49,900. It's actually rented for, we didn't have the date at the time, it rented for $781 a month. You can see what the taxes average, the insurance, the management fee. This one's a little bit on the high side, but it's not it's not untypical to see 12 to 14% tenants at the very lowest. But this is before rehab. The pictures really don't show how bad it really was, but it wasn't that bad. But Charlie, you can go to the next slide, and we can take a look at the after photos. You can see that, you know, we completely painted, renovated, installed the new air conditioner. You can see how nice the yard is, on and on and on. I just wanted to give you an example just so you can get your mind around what type of properties that we're talking about. Because what we're about to talk about is why you came on the webinar and why we're very, very, very excited. Charlie, you can go to the next one. Okay, here's the actual invite that you got in your email that made you respond to come on our webinar, okay? I'm going to show you how you can earn over 50% on your money, probably for the next 2 years. When I say it's very limited, I really mean it. We're only looking for a small hand of investors. We can only handle so much inventory at a time. But the bottom line is we're going to talk about not having to deal with tenants, not having to deal with toilets, or any type of troubles as far as that. We're doing this program because we need to take advantage of more and more properties. Getting loans on these properties is hugely costly and prohibitive. So I'm announcing a joint venture. You can go to the next slide. All right. I'm just going to give you an example. We're talking about $35,000. The houses that you just saw, those houses, by the time we do the rehab, do everything that needs to be done to get them in the condition that you saw, we're into them for about $35,000, okay? You can go to the next slide. Okay. We sell those homes all day long for $49.99. I just put $50,000 up there. We have about $4,000 that we have to pay out in commission fees and about $1,000 in closing costs, which leaves us about $45,000, okay? But we need to buy more of them. You can go to the next slide. In the course of acquiring the home, rehabbing the home, and renting the home, there's going to be about $180 in taxes, $150 in insurance, $108 in alarm. We put an alarm on the home while it's being rehabbed, and we always make sure that we put a home warranty on the home. So, you know, there's a little over $800 worth of additional expenses. Okay. So the bottom line is there's $44,162 net proceeds, okay, $35,000 was the initial investment. What we're offering is that we will become joint venture partners together, and we will split that profit of $45.81 between the two of us, okay? It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but we're only talking about $35,000. You do the math, average turnaround time is going to be about 90 days, in some cases a lot less. You're going to get 13% on your money. The bottom line is you do it 4 times a year, which we're very comfortable doing. You can go to the next slide. It comes out to be $18,000 in total profit, okay? And you can annualize it, and of course it comes out to be, you know, $52,000. If you have any interest in this program whatsoever, please contact either Charlie and I. We're going to put our contact info up there in a minute. There you go. If you don't know about Birmingham, get the piece about why Birmingham. And then if you want to see the contract, it's very straightforward. I actually, I've got attorneys calling me saying my contract's too simple. Okay, but that's how we are. You'll really, really like what you see. And again, you know, these are properties that we sell all day long for $50,000. We're looking for some joint venture partners. And if you're interested, you know, please contact us. Is there anything you want to add, Charlie?
No, I mean, this is just a classic model of a buy and flip. The market, when our reseller was founded, most of the active, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but most of the sales were buy and flips. That was the model for a long time. Then that model sort of changed into more of a buy and hold model. And this really is just a classic buy and flip model. There's a big market out there for reselling these properties. There's a lot of inventory available there. And as Greg said, the goal here is to enhance his ability to buy more of what he sees on a daily basis. So it's really just a buy and flip. It's a quick in and out. You buy it, you rehab it, you flip it, and you split the profit. Greg, there is one question. By the way, we're going to take questions now. So if you got questions, again, if you look to the right of your screen, there's a little button that says questions. If you just click on that, a screen will pop up. You can type the questions in there. Greg, there's one question here. Title is in whose name, mine or yours?
It's in the investor's name.
So maybe describe that. So it's a typical real estate transaction where they would buy the piece of real estate, they would escrow their money, the escrow would close, title will be transferred or put into the name of the entity they choose, correct?
Yeah. Let me go in a little bit more detail. First of all, REO Reseller never takes money. We use a title and escrow, very reputable one in the Southeast. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but it would be just like you buying the house across the street from you. So you go ahead and whether you use your IRA, that's something that we can help you with, or it's cash, we do a contract. You would open up escrow. We would acquire a home. That home would go into your name, however you want it titled, whether it be corporation, LLC, whatever is good for you, and maybe even your IRA. And then we immediately start the process of rehabbing the home and flipping it. And I can tell you that the demand is high. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather do the opposite. But in some cases, they are sold before the house is even rehabbed. It does happen, okay? But we're looking at an average of 90 days. I want to make that clear. Hey, if it happens in 30 days, that's all great and dandy. There's always the possibility it could go 120, but it would be rare. So the target is, doing it, 4 times a year.
Greg, next question. What happens if you cannot sell the house?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. First of all, I'm very confident we will sell the house. The demand on these homes is increasing literally by the week, by the month, to the point of it's really starting to get insane. Let's say the worst case scenario is Greg Mooney gets hit by a truck and gets run over by a Mack truck. You own a home that's worth way more than what you paid for it, and it's cash flowing at such a high rate. I've never even done the math, but it's got to be in the high teens, low 20s. So I don't think that would be a really bad problem. But no, it is our absolute intent to sell that home at a profit so we can, split the proceeds.
Yeah, just to tag on to that too. There's so many buyers in this market at this moment that, even the homes at the lower end of the market, there's a market for those as well. So you're buying it at $35,000. You're really buying it at a wholesale price. So that's all the questions we have in the queue. Is there if anybody's got any other questions? We'll leave the phone numbers up on the screen or in our email addresses as well. So if you do have questions, you're certainly willing to give me and or Greg a call. I'm going to give it another minute, Greg, and just see if anything else pops up here. So I'm just going to hit my mute button here, see if anybody else chimes in with a question. If not, I want to thank everyone for being here. Okay, that's a good question. The question is, Greg, this would be to you. How does REO Reseller make money if the home doesn't sell?
We don't. That's the whole point. In other words, I am incented to resell your home as quickly as possible, and I only have so much money that I have available to me to buy a certain amount of homes. And I'm looking to, rather than take on a very expensive financing, I would rather have a JV partner.
Who pays for the rehab?
It's in the $35,000. I mean, we've done a lot of homes. Yeah, I mean, we've got it nailed down to, I don't want to say dimes and nickels, but we have a very experienced ground crew. We have 3 rehab teams, excellent property management, etc. Anybody else?
I was on mute. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the queue here. I was asked here for agreements. Yes, if you're requesting an agreement, I will send it to you. It's a very user-friendly agreement, by the way. I will be glad to send that out to you. And this webinar was recorded, and it will be sent out to everyone that attended, as well as those who registered and were not able to attend. We have one more question. Do you pay for referrals? Hang on a second. Yeah, a couple requests here for the user agreement. I will get that to you. Do you pay referral fees? Yes, we absolutely do pay referral fees. You can contact me about that. I can talk to you about that. We do have a referral fee program. So if you know somebody that might want to be interested in buying this, we can certainly pay you a referral fee. And yes, I will get these agreements out as requested here. And if there's no more questions, I just want to say thanks to everybody for being on. Greg, thanks for being here with us today.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for attending. Good turnout. I hope you're excited as I am.
Yeah, and I will be at my desk for the next couple hours. So if you got any questions, feel free to give me a call. So again, thanks everybody for being here, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.